Jacqueline Coley. I'm the awards editor at Rotten Tomatoes, and it is my pleasure to host today's half hour with the Night of Kings. So, without further ado, allow me to welcome the writer and director of Night of Kings, Philippe Lacôte. Hello, Philippe.
Hi, Jacqueline.
Yes, and as this is sort of like I would like to say a little amuse-bouche for the folks who have not yet seen the film and sort of giving them a bit to get ready to see it, we're going to play a clip. But before we do that, give folks a little bit of a detail about the film. Give me sort of your director trailer for it right now.
Night of the Kings happens in Ivory Coast, in La Maca, the biggest prison of my country. And it's a story of a young boy, Roman. He arrive in this prison, and he is chosen by Blackbird, the chief, the prisoner who is the chief of this prison, and he is obliged to tell a story all this night.
Thank you, Philippe, for that little director trailer. And now let's take a look at a clip from the film.
Peuple de la Maca! Un mauvais fils est un fils quand même. Rien n'est plus dégoûtant qu'un innocent en prison. Si t'entends mis ici là-haut, bah bien, nous sommes tous coupables. Et avant l'homme qui a dansé pour venir ici. Kavacha! La lune a parlé. Elle est rouge. Le chef Bablo a décidé de nous faire plaisir. Il a choisi un nouveau roman. Quelle histoire roman, nous, Popo. Le mot prend quelle couleur dans son bébé? Espoir ou tristesse? Amen! Ou bien si...
Wow. That is such a great clip. I love that we're starting this conversation there because it has so many of the things we're going to talk about, from the crowd work to the sort of rumination on storytelling. But let's go ahead and start with how the project came about, because it originally was going to be called, I believe, Zama King. And the story took a little bit of a turn as you were going through the development of it, about whose perspective it was going to be about. So sort of talk about the inception of the project and how it developed into what we eventually saw.
First, I met a childhood friend, and he was in La Maca before, and he told me, in La Maca, we choose a prisoner, and he's obliged to tell stories each night. Of course, they don't kill him. It's my perception of the script, of the story, but it's a true story at the beginning. And during my research, I met two people who were Roman inside La Maca, and so I decided to build something around this story, because my own life is very connected with La Maca, with prison. Because when I was child, my mother was in La Maca for political reason. So I traveled one day by week in a collective taxi across this forest, because La Maca is inside the forest. And La Maca was, as a visitor, it's a prison who is very open, and it was possible to meet, to have interaction with prisoners, to meet prisoners, to discuss with them. So it was like a kingdom for me as a child, with queens, with kings, with lackeys, and I kept strong image from this prison. So I decided to make this film, to work with this image.
Yeah, and that scene that we just saw definitely speaks to, I think, both sides of it, because there's the openness of the forest or sort of the outside, and then there's just this claustrophobic and just like suffocating portions within the prison. And I love that juxtaposition of part of that storytelling and the camera work you guys use to sort of illustrate that. So talk about the two main sort of quote unquote settings of the story, and how one again felt so open, even though maybe that's the more dangerous portion, and then the suffocation, especially when the story starts going on, it feels in a way safer. It's which is strange.
Yes, we wanted to give a real the real atmosphere of La Maca. La Maca is a prison who has a big collective cell. It's not like in Europe or in USA, individual cells. So you have a group, you have a community, and it was perfect for the story Night of the Kings to put a narrator inside this collective cell, and with prisoners around, and to tell a story. So with my cinematographer Toby Marie Robitaille, we wanted this suffocating atmosphere to be more close. I didn't want to have the perception of we are filming a prison. I wanted to put the spectator inside, and we wanted something very close, because we have also flashback outside who are very open, who are very wide, and it was this contrast, this balance we wanted to work with this.
Yeah, and again, it's so incredible too, because the film in itself is a story, and then it is centered on this, the storyteller, and it is in a way sort of like an examination of how storytelling has been so important to cultures, but also in the particular case of our protagonist Ramon, it's literally life or death. I mean, that's not a spoiler. Like, he is told, like, you've got to tell a story, otherwise, at the end of this, you're not going to make it. And this is something that we've seen throughout storytelling, sort of oral histories, this idea of the storyteller tasked with entertaining, or you may die. And it also speaks back to the homage to griot, which is this sort of type of storytelling, oral history. And so really talk about why you wanted to really sort of put oral history, especially as it relates to culture in the Ivory Coast, front and center with this particular story.
Yeah, as a filmmaker, I consider myself as a storyteller, and I wanted to make a film about the power of stories, about the power of storytelling, how storytelling is stronger than violence. It was my goal in this film, and in another way, I wanted to pay a tribute to our oral tradition in West Africa, in Ivory Coast. As you said, we have griots. Griots, it's a particular function, because griots, it could be a man or a woman, but it's a function of a family. I can't be personally a griot. I must come from a family of griots. So it's a long tradition, and griots, they are very important in our society, because they are poets, they are storytellers, but they are also historians of the kingdom. They keep the history. So it means that for us, in our culture, in West African culture, there's no difference between a legend, between a real event, between a political event. All these elements are different level of one story.
Mm. Yeah, which I think is also such, there's even more to it, because, colonial thinking is written history. Meanwhile, with so many indigenous peoples and with so many African people, oral history is the way that sort of stories are passed down. And it's interesting too, because I know the film definitely speaks of the political unrest in the Ivory Coast. One of the sort of casualties of the political unrest was also the film industry. And I do think there's a bit of parallels to be said here, as far as like, I feel like this film film is helping reusher what some people may not realize, which is that the Ivory Coast film industry was sort of ravaged by the same political unrest that you talk about in the film.
Yes, Ivory Coast has a history of cinema. We have maybe 10 directors who are important in our cinema. But it's a new industry. It's a new industry because we spent 10 years in a sort of civil war, in a conflict, and cinema was very bad after this 10 years. So it's a new beginning, and it's important to say that today we have strong stories in our culture. We have strong stories in our tradition, how we live with this past and how we go to the future with this past. And my main character, Roman, is at this place because at the beginning he said that he grew up with his aunt who was griot, who was storyteller, and he is not sure to have this power of telling stories. But at the end, we will see that he has this power.
Yeah, and the power is so great that you mentioned that, because that's exactly where I wanted to go to next, because folks may not have seen your previous film Run or some of your documentaries, but there's a severe realism that you can even capture in just that short clip that we saw everywhere with that huge crowd work, and mixing with that is a lot of fantastical elements that will come into play throughout the story. And again, it's that sort of realism and also that magic that is really where the film, I think, is just, it's why it is kind of magical. It's why folks, I think, are resonating so much with it, because it does feel just like the Iliad and the Odyssey, you know, very, very sort of epic in that, and also completely tangible to right now and contemporary.
For me, prison is a society with the prisoners have their code, their own laws, their own beliefs, as we can see the Red Moon. So I wanted to build a society, and inside this society, when this society is strong, and you can, as an audience, you can believe in this society. It's time to travel. It's time to because the narrator Roman, he is in a special place. He's in prison where people, they can't go outside. So his work, his function is to make them fly. Yeah. So it's important to have this magical part. But for us, we speak about magical realism. It's a way to discuss with other culture. But for us, there's no magical realism. Everything is realistic in this film, because we live in this world. Our vision, dead people, alive people, invisible world, visible world, realistic things, magical things. The border is very fine for us, and we cross very easily this border.
Yes, it reminds me of another great film from a French African director from a few years ago from Senegal, Atlantique. It's similar to that, and it just seems like with these, Mati Diop, and all of those stories. It's one of the reasons why I love West African cinema when it's done so well as these two are. Another film that's also getting a lot of praise, and congratulations on the Oscars shortlist. I just wonder for yourself, knowing now that, you know, it's winning awards and folks are talking about the film, just how that's resonating with you, and kind of what you hope people, when they see the film, can take away from it from a global audience.
Yes, what I want to say, it's I think that it's time today to tell our stories from Africa. It's time to participate to the international cinema. It's very important. Africa is out of a lot of things. It's out of the center of economy. It's out of the center of politics. We don't want to be out of cinema. We want to participate, because cinema is a universal language, and we can bring our culture, we can bring our vision, but cinema is a universal language. I'm a kid of Charlie Chaplin. I'm a kid of Spike Lee. I'm a kid of different directors. So it's an international community, and we want to bring our story with a strong level, with an international level.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to bring it down to more the technical aspects of it because the film, as we saw in that opening shot, it's a lot of background, and I want to talk about Roman, your lead character, but I want to start with the background because
Yeah.
directing scenes like that, especially with this, where everyone has to be so committed to keep the realism going in some of these ridiculous, like not ridiculous, but fantastical and dreamlike moments, you have to keep them married into this realism, a lot of them non-verbally. They just have to look like they're enraptured by the story that Roman is telling. So I just want to talk to you as a director on how you direct like that, because it's not always talked about how people direct large background like that, where it has to be such a huge part of the story.
Yes, it was my challenge in Night of the Kings. It was my challenge in this film to, I wanted to work with a lot of extras, with a lot of small actors. For me, there is no extra, there is no main role, there is no small role. All these actors, when they are in front of my camera, they are the main actors of this scene, or of this frame. So I work with all these extras to engage them in this film. I didn't want a prison like this with prisoners who were in silence, listen Roman. I didn't want to use the prison like a place for flashback or a place only for starting my story. I wanted to put prisoner inside. Prisoner are very are a part of this story. We can see at the beginning, Roman is alone to tell his story, but at the end, everybody is in this story. Dancers, singers, martial art fighters. It's like a chorus.
Yeah. Oh, and we'll get to the dancing too. I definitely do not want to not touch on the choreography and the physical storytelling that was done in this. But let's talk about Roman because although he has performing history, this is his first big actually performance, which first of all, casting an actor with that, there's actors within the piece who obviously have more credits that have worked in cinema before this, but casting him in that part, that's an extreme level of trust on both sides. So talk about how you knew he was the right person for the role, and then sort of also working through a relatively unknown actor in the biggest, part of the movie.
Yes, usually it's a feeling. I have not a dogma to say I want to work with like this. I try to find the main actor for the role, even if he's not an actor. So I invited some actors, famous actor in West Africa, Rasmane Ouedraogo from Burkina, Isaka Savadogo. I invited also Laetitia Key, who is a performer, and she plays the queen. But near these actors, we spent 2 years in a cast process in Abidjan, in different suburbs. We met 2,000 young people, and finally we selected 40 persons to make a workshop during 2 months. Martial art fighters, dancers, singers, new actors. And Bakary Koné, the main actor who played Roman, it's his first time to play. And I chose him because he had a real concentration. He wanted really to play this role, and it was very easy for me to give to him my idea, to say how I see the character. There was a real connection together, and we were agree to travel in this film together. So it's the main thing for me.
Yeah, that's so incredible. I think you even said, I think I saw in one interview where you talked about because Roman, the character, is literally sort of like given a task and has to figure it out. He's thrown out of the plane and then has to figure out the parachute as he's falling. And you said it kind of paralleled what the actor was having to do on screen, being an unknown actor put in a role, having to figure it out as he's going along. And those two things actually helped him with the portrayal.
Yeah, I didn't want to have an actor who at the beginning of the story, you know that he can tell the story. So it's finished. So I wanted an actor. You will see him progressively become an actor, because this role is like this. When Roman arrives in this prison, he's not sure he, he doesn't know how he will tell the story, but progressively he becomes more stronger. He has this memory of his aunt who was griot. So he has all this power, but he is not sure of this. So it's a sort of coming age. It's a revelation also for him.
Yeah, and I don't want to gloss over what you said. 2 years assembling the cast,
Yeah.
correct? 2
Yeah.
years. That is
Yeah.
incredible, as everyone knows how hard casting is. I want to bring it now to the choreography. Again, I want folks to see it, so I don't want to tell too much. But as we talk about the more magical and sort of surreal aspects of the story, you employed a lot of choreography. So talk about assembling the dance team, and more importantly, like, I don't know your personal history with dance, but was this a situation where you had an idea already of what you wanted it to look like and you had to find the right performers, or was this something that you developed together as far as how you wanted that part of the storytelling to look?
No, I said we made a workshop during 2 months, so we knew exactly what will happen for this dancer. And I didn't call them dancer at the beginning. I call them players, because for me, they play again the story of Roman. Yeah, and we decided during this workshop, okay, you will make dancer will make this figure of Scorpion. They will make this figure. They will not make this figure. So we found some different places, different words when we wanted to have a dance or to have a song. But as like with Roman, I didn't want to say, okay, you will see my dancer in prison. No, at the beginning, there are prisoners. They are prisoners, they listen to the story, and at one time they enter and they make something as a dancer. But it's not, we are dancer, we are a group of dancer. It was not like this. And I remember a piece of theater of Jean Genet, a French writer, Jean Genet, The Maids. And in The Maids, the maids become one night the mistress of the house. And I wanted to make my prisoner, they become, during one night, the kings of this prison.
Yeah, it is so interesting to watch, because it feels so much like Oz if it was directed by Michel Gondry. Like, it's such a great, I think, marriage of sort of magical and, again, the most grim at times parts of reality. But I think we've given folks a lot to look at and say, hey, if you are interested in any of these films, or if any of this jumped into you. But as we sort of get out of here, if somebody is listening to this and maybe they're still on the fence, what would you tell them to go ahead and head on over to go see Night of Kings? What would you want to encourage them to do so? And why would you say this is the next film that they absolutely must stop down to check out?
I will say that Night of the King is a concentration of all young talents in Ivory Coast. A woman who is a performer, young actors, dancers, martial art fighters, singers. It's portrait of our culture and the portrait of young talents in Ivory Coast.
I live for that. All right, everyone, be sure, if you have not already, to please see Night of Kings as quickly as possible. You can head on over to Neon Rated to see that. Again, I want to thank you, Philippe, for your time and telling us about the filmmaking. And I want to thank the folks at Neon for having me. Thank you all, and have a great evening.